Dawson23 here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be reviewing the brand new Kizer Shrike. This is a Johann Jordan design, and I love the overall aesthetics of this one. I think the lines flow well, and this is a great little big knife in my opinion. Very compact EDC, coming in at 6.45 inches long with a 2.79 inch drop point blade, as you see there. My particular version has a blasted sun wash finish. You have a nice little thumb ramp right there. That feels great. Some nice grippy jimping here and some here, which I love whenever I'm doing these pointer finger grips. It does a good job of stabilizing your finger. It gives you some good stability on the spine. So if you need to put a little bit more pressure down into something, this should be a very versatile drop point because you got that nice low tip sitting a little bit below the center line of the scales. So your belly's gonna be very, very gradual up to that tip. You can better easily manipulate that tip to do fine detail work or pierce into something, and you should have just enough belly to cut on a flat cutting surface and a pinch grip. And of course, in-hand cuts are going to be great also because you got close to a straight edge. We do have a forward finger choil that fits my finger nicely, and you got some jimping underneath there just so you don't accidentally slide forward. This forward finger choil also acts as an oversized sharpening choil. Your plunge doesn't start to thicken up to about right here, so you're going to have probably the life of this knife before it'll ever think about widening on you. I don't think it'll become a problem ever. We have a blade hole, dual thumb studs that stay out of the cutting path, as you see there, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. Got a chamfer on the spine so you don't have any sharp areas where you don't want them to be. And this particular version is in CPM S45VN, which has become one of my favorite steels from Kizer. It holds a really good edge, it's got good corrosion resistance, and it's easy to sharpen. Your blade stock thickness on this one's coming in at 0.12 inches with a flat grind that they still managed to get down to around 20 thousandths behind the edge. So as long as Kizer sent this one out very sharp, it should perform great, and we're going to find out. I was really happy to see this one came with a much better edge out of box than the top sail. And anytime I'm doing in-hand cuts, I'm going to be choked up because if I'm choked back, even though I can get a solid grip on it, just way too far from that edge, so you're bound to get hung up in that forward choil area. So it just makes more sense. Being that this blade has very, very little belly to it, it's a very gradual belly, doing these in-hand cuts is very easy to do. I never once did I feel like I was going to slide out of the cut. Now we're testing those ergos and seeing how that edge wants to bite with this wonky piece of wood that I chose for it. It's making easy work of, as easy as I can do it, of feather sticking. No bushcrafter, but mainly testing for the ergos. So I started increasing pressure more and more, and in that choke up spot I get a lot of force, way more force than I expected to be able to get on a knife that's under 7 inches. And that's because of that forward choil area. I'm able to really bear down into it. So look, I tried to do it on the flat cutting surface, and I probably could have, but I lifted it up on the block because you just don't get as much edge down into the sisal rope when you're coming at an angle like you do when you're cutting onto something flat. So it just made my life a lot easier, and it showcased the edge a lot better because doing it the other way, it would probably look like the knife's dull, but it's not. It's just because I'm not able to get all the way through the entire piece of rope in one slicing motion. So as soon as I lifted up on the block, it blasted through this. I already knew it was sharp, but it's hard to tell how much bite a knife has until I get to this portion. And yeah, excellent job. Of course, it's going to be a little scalpel up there at the tip. Great for doing these detail cuts that I'm always talking about. I did a few extra just because it was so easy. And I'm going to show you here that you can do, most cuts on a flat surface. It's just, certain things that require a lot more force, maybe a little bit more difficult just because you're not getting too much of the edge onto whatever you're cutting. But yeah, I was happy to see that I was able to do this, and I did it very easily. Outstanding performer. I tested this one alongside the Kizer Top Sail, and this one performed quite a bit better than the Top Sail, and it's mainly because it had a better edge out of box. I'm sure once I put my own edge on both of them, they'll be about neck and neck. Now let's take a look at the deployment action on this one. So you have this front flipper with some jimping there that grips the finger nicely. You have dual thumb studs, and you have a blade hole. As far as the front flipper, you can do the reach around. Because this is a bolster lock, I just put my fingers underneath that lock bar so I don't put too much pressure. A regular front flip works great. It's kind of hard to do a slow roll because it gets flush with the scales right there. You can kind of do it. You just have to be a little bit more intentional. As far as the thumb studs, this one rockets out. The detent is very crisp, very positive break. That blade hole, I can reverse flick it really easily. The thumb flick works great with the thumb studs. And like I said, very well tuned detent for all the different deployment methods. You can even grab where that fuller goes into the blade hole and do a drop down. Great knife for that because you can get to that tip really quickly. This one is riding on cage ceramic bearings with a ceramic detent ball. Even though the blade is nice and light, it's still a fairly fall shut knife. Now let's take a look at the handle area. So we have a titanium bolster, blue anodized tie pivot. It is like a dome pivot with a chamfer going all the way around. Never feel that. And you have the Blue Canyon Rich Light. It's a nice little contrast. Blue's my favorite color. Blue thumb studs, as you see there. Chamfer going all the way around so you don't have any sharp areas where you don't want them to be. And I'm closing my eyes. The transition is seamless there. I don't feel any high spots. They just have a chamfer on both sides to make them meet up perfectly. You see there's no gaps that you can see straight through it. And there's no high spots at all, as you would expect from Kizer. We have nice crisp Torx T8 everywhere, your cover screws, your pivot, your hardened stainless steel lock insert, your clip screw. Excellent job, Kizer. We have a 3D milled tie pocket clip that functions well. However, it is tip up, right hand carry only, unfortunately for my lefties. You got a 3/4 length tie backspacer with some speed holes to lighten the knife up, I'm sure, and to balance it out for such a compact knife. They removed all the tie for these Rich Light scales. That'll help bring down the weight. And you have the speed holes in the back. And then if you look inside, you have pocketing that goes through and through all the way to the Rich Light on that show scale. And they also have it going straight through on the lock side also. That's going to help bring down the weight and balance the knife out, bringing this one to 2.23 ounces. And there's your balance point, absolute perfection. So it's going to feel even lighter than that in hand, and it's very nimble. You can really maneuver this one rather easily. Your stop pin is way back here. You don't have to worry about it getting in the way of your edge. And the centering on my particular knife is right down the middle. Your lockup on this knife is rock solid. I have absolutely no movement in any direction, and that's what you want to see. The lockup on my particular knife is sitting around, I'd say about 30% or so. Access to the lock bar is great. This show scale choil goes down a little bit lower, and you got a nice little comfortable chamfer there. I can easily get the tip of my thumb or this portion, absolutely no problem. Now for some quick size comparisons, and just to show you how compact the knife is, it's smaller than both the Ontario Wrap Model 2 and the Benchmade Mini Grip. And it's just a little shorter than the Kizer Mini Militaw and the Kizer Mini Bakelita. And it's very similar in length to the Benchmade Mini Bug Out and the Vosti Mini Psyop. And lastly, it's also similar in length to the Boker Canoe, and it's a little bigger than the Kizer Mini Sheepdog. And since absolutely no knife's perfect, what are my nitpicks and complaints? First off, there's no lefty love here. Next, I'm not the biggest fan of a blasted finish. It just opens the blade up for corrosion, and it leaves stains from colored material quite often whenever I do my testing. However, it's not really an issue because they also have a full DLC coated version, and they have one with a satin blade. So, you know, it's easily solved just by buying one of those. But other than that, I have really enjoyed this one. I have been considering picking up the DLC version one. I think it looks beautiful. I love a good DLC, and the contrast with the gold camo fat carbon scales on that one looks fantastic. This version of the Shrike is the most affordable at 130 bucks. I think it's very, very well priced. It feels like a much more expensive knife. And then the one I was just talking about with the DLC blade and the black tie and the gold camo fat carbon scales, that one comes in at 170 bucks. And then the one with the satin blade and the carbon fiber scales comes in at 180. Obviously, this one's your best value, but if any of them interest you, I will have them linked down below in the description. I know some of the places, this one's already sold out. I think Blade HQ sold out this one. I think they only have one variation left at Blade HQ. I can't remember which one it is, but I will leave a link to whatever I can find. So what are my final thoughts on the new Kizer Shrike? I think it's a very easy knife to carry. It's not going to scare anyone. It's comfortable for what it is. It's not a hard use knife by any means. It's a good little performer. It's got fantastic action. It rides really well in the pocket. And pretty much anybody I've showed this knife to has really liked it. Even my wife, she's not even a knife fan, and she thought it was a cool looking knife. If you like front flippers, this one works great. If you like to reverse flick, works great. You want a slow roll, that works great also. I mean, very fidgety knife and a very well made knife. So that's going to wrap up today's video. If you have any particular questions about this one, feel free to ask me down below, and I'll do my best to get back with you. I hope every single one of y'all is having the day y'all deserve. And just remember, keep these blades sharp, smile more. All right.